I mentioned over here, though, that we do multiplication before addition. So there's actually an order that we use when we do these operators. And we'll call this order of operations. It's also called precedence. Some days I just can't spell. Precedence. And so there's a thing here, right? When we do certain things in different ways. And so this first example, it made sense that we did multiplication before division, because really in math, we tend to go left to right. But when you look at an expression in a different way, and you evaluate this kind of thing, you start thinking, well, is it going to be 7 times 5, 35, or is it going to be 3 plus 20 for 23? You have these two different options, and we might be able to do that, right? We can think, well, it's one of these or the other, and it's confusing. Like, which one do we do? So do we do this first, or do we do this first? And depending upon which one you do, you get different answers. And just to highlight this a little bit better, in fact, the first one I did that. And the second one I did that, right? So 3 plus 20 yields 23. So two different ways of looking at it. And so there's a rule to how we do this. And do we do left to right first, or do we do multiplication first? And Python and other programming languages have that rule that says, well, we have to define this in some way. And the way they defined it is that we're going to do multiplications first. So multiplication, 2 divisions, and the modulus. Those all happen before additions and subtractions. And then Python also has the exponential operator. And so the exponential operator actually comes even before that. So we have this ordering, this precedence. And you have to look at them and think, okay, well, if I have a multiplication and an addition in the same line, I'm going to do the multiplication first and then get that answer. So that actually ends up being the right answer. But then you have, what if I have multiple addition subtractions on the same line, in the same expression? Or if I have multiplication and division in the same expression, or multiple multiplications and multiple additions. So after we look at their order here, then we look at them left to right. So if I have a multiplication and division in the same expression, I'm going to do whatever one is on the left first. Same thing with addition and subtraction. If I have multiple ones in the same expression, I also evaluate those left to right. So when you have 2 or more operators at the same level of precedence in an expression, you evaluate them left to right. And there's one more operator, and that actually, parentheses, has the highest precedence. So you do what's inside the parentheses first. And you can say that this has the highest priority. It's the order that we evaluate them. Then we evaluate, so we do what's in the parentheses first, then we do the exponential, then we do multiplications and divisions, and then finally we do pluses and minuses. And so that's how we pick and choose. And so let's do an example. Let's actually do a long one. 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 2 raised to the third power, integer division by 4, so floor division 4. And we could certainly do this by hand, and we probably should. First thing we're going to do, right there, right? So that's going to be 8. So if we rewrite this, we have 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 8, floor division 4. The next thing we're going to do is we have multiplication and division before addition subtraction, and then we go left to right. So 4 times 5 is going to give us 20. 8 divided by 4, floor division, meaning drop the decimal, going to give us 2. So now we write 3 plus 20 minus 2, left to right. So we're going to do this one first. 23 minus 2 is going to give us the answer 21. So notice how I went and did that first one. I did the exponential first, then I did multiplication first, then division, then addition, and then finally subtraction. And if we do this in idle, let's see, 3 plus 4 times 5. That's the one we looked at up here, 3 plus 4 times 5. It's going to give us 23, which is what I hopefully said it was. And if we do the other example, 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 2 to the third power, floor division 4, we get 21, which again, I hope that's my answer, and it was. And you can see that it did the whole thing that I just pointed out. However, if you were to look through code and you saw that, and you probably wonder what is happening. And if you see someone else's code and they're doing something like that, you may have to like really start digging in to figure out what's happening first. And so there's an easier way we can write this to make other programmers understand what's going on a bit more explicitly. And we do that with parentheses.
No, I don't remember. That's why you have charts.
No, not like.
Yeah, it's like oxidation.
So if we use parentheses, and I'm just doing the first set first, and we could do another parenthesis, like we know this is going to happen. And again, I'm just going for readability. This isn't going to change our answer, right? That's not going to change our answer. It's just a much more explicit way of writing it, so you kind of know exactly what operations are going to happen. We know that this happens before this. We know that this happens before the plus and the minus. And so when you write it out, yes, you get the same answer, but it starts to look a lot better. And so instead of writing something all completely independent, you just put it in there together. Oops. Divided by 4. And it just makes it more readable, right? And if we looked at it now, we would say, well, we're still going to do this first. So this right here, become 8. We know this is going to become 20. And then we know this is going to be divided by 4. So this whole thing becomes 2. So we can see the 3 plus 20 minus 2 is still going to give us 21. It just makes it clearer, more explicit about what we're doing. And it's just a little bit better way of writing something that gives us the same answer. So think about using that when you're doing your order of operations. And if you need to change the way the operations work, maybe you really meant 3 plus 4 times 5, and then the 3 and the 4 happen before the multiplication. Then you need to put parentheses around the 3 plus 4, so you get 7 times 5 instead of the other way around. It has a major impact on how you do it. So let's look at the modulus again. And so modulus is something we use a lot in programming. Again, gets you the remainder. So if I do 5 modulo 2, I'm going to get 1, because the remainder, remember, this is going to be 5 divided by 2 is going to give us 2 with a remainder of 1. And so the modulo operator gives us the 1. And so we could do something more advanced. And if we do that, remember that both of these are in the same priority. Can't remember where my thing is. It's over here. Multiplications and division are in the same priority, same order. And so we do left to right. And so we're going to do the multiplication first, which is going to give us 21. Then we're going to mod that by 4. So we divide by 4. We get a remainder of 1. So this turns into 1. And then finally, we just add that together and we're going to get 6. And let's do it on idle just to make sure that it worked as intended, or as I wrote it down. And we got 6. So it does the multiplication before it does the modulo, and then it does the addition.